Hello, good evening. It's lovely to have you all here this evening, and hopefully it's now stopped raining where you are. We are delighted to be able to talk to you about post-16 options tonight, and I'm just going to invite everybody to turn on their cameras so I can introduce you to who we've got with us. So my name is Helen Devine-Costa. I'm the Vice Principal for Post-16 and I'm the IBDP Coordinator as well. We've got Tim Collins, who is our IBCP Coordinator and our BTEC Coordinator. Miss Besisira-Williams, you will know as the Year 11 Head of Year. And Miss Sara Ellison is our Director of Learning for Post-16. So she will be taking over the students once they come into the Post-16 section, looking after everything to do with their academic and pastoral well-being. And then we've also got Mr. Michael Hirsch, who you won't have met yet because Michael is new to the school, but he is our new head of higher education and counselling and careers counselling. So we're really lucky to have him on the call as well this evening to help with any questions to do with HE. So I'm going to ask my colleagues just for the moment to turn their screens off again. They are going to be sitting in the background, popping on the call at different points. If you have a question as we're going through things this evening, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You drop your question into there and then someone behind the scenes will answer it, or we'll save it to the end and we'll answer it live for you. Our aim this evening isn't to drill down into the differences between one subject and another. It's to give you an overview of the 4 different pathways that your children will have as they move into post-16 education. So what I hope you leave with is just a clearer understanding of what each of those pathways is about and what some of the differences are between them, and also a little bit more of an idea about what might suit your child best as they move on through the school. So if you just bear with me, because I need to remember how the Zoom works. There we go. So our first thing to mention is that when you're listening this evening, I really need you to embrace the attributes of the IB learner profile. It's easy to come into these things thinking, well, I know this already because I've had other children go through it, or I know it because my friends' children have done it, or perhaps even I did it when I was at school and I know what these things are all about, these subjects are like. But actually, I really need you to be open-minded this evening. Listen to the information about all the different courses. Really sit back and try and be balanced in your approach to different things. Listen to the different strengths and weaknesses of different ideas that we're presenting. And we've really been encouraging your students already to be inquirers. The best way to tackle this process is to inform yourself with knowledge. And the way to do that is to find out more, come to events like this, use the website, perhaps do some early research on university courses, but really use those skills of inquiry to make sure that you are making decisions that are well informed. So our results are very, very good. We are an excellent school. We are an excellent centre for BTEC, and we are an excellent centre for IB. So the graduates that have just finished, you can see our average point score was 36 and 27%. So over a quarter of the students achieved 40 out of the maximum 45 in the IB diploma. So over a quarter of students achieved that. 5% of our cohort got what we call a bilingual diploma, which means they studied English language and literature first language, and then a second language subject is their first language. So it could be Chinese literature, it could be German literature, French literature, but either way, an astounding achievement to be so skilled in 2 languages that you can respond and work at an academic level in both of them. And then our BTEC students, 81% of them got a distinction star or a distinction. So a distinction star is the maximum grade you can get at BTEC. And our students really do excel in the BTEC program and go off to some great, great universities, which we will show you in a little bit. So why study with us? You know, you have a choice, and some of you might be thinking about going somewhere else. The one thing that I would say in 20-something years of teaching, and a lot of that spent in sixth form education, this school has the widest range of offers of any school that I have worked in. And our pathways really are there so that we can tailor them to individual student strengths. And we go to a lot of time and a lot of effort, and there's a lot of conversations that go in to try and make sure that the choices made are the best ones for your son or daughter. All of our students will go on to places at university or onto work experience places and apprenticeship places worldwide. And we do have pathways to support students who are going into fields that are really competitive, like medicine or law, or students that are looking at getting into those kind of Ivy League or Russell Group, top Russell Group universities in Oxford and Cambridge. We have a specific pathway to support those students as well. But equally, we are just as supportive of our students that are looking for something different, maybe looking for something more hands-on and practical in their university education. And we've got a dedicated HE team, which Michael Hirsch is leading up for us, who will work individually with your son or daughter from now right the way through until they leave us to head off to university or for their gap year or for their work placement. A big part of the academic success, in fact, probably the whole part of the academic success, comes from the pastoral work that goes on with your sons and daughters. You will know already how well Miss Besisira-Williams and her team look after them. And it's the same in post-16. We put a lot of value on the holistic approach to learning. So yes, of course, subjects and exams and assignments are important, but also the CAS is really important. The wider learning is really important. The service opportunities are really, really important areas for growth. We want our students to be leaders. There's lots and lots of leadership opportunities as they move through post-16. And we've got a dedicated pastoral team that look after their welfare and their well-being, and counsellors and mental health practitioners that can support them when things perhaps are getting a little bit tough and a little bit stressful. And you know this already because your students are our students. So we pride ourselves, again, not just on sending these students out with good exam results, but actually creating students that are global citizens. They are internationally minded. They speak multiple languages. They care about the world. They care about communities. They think critically about problems, and they have the compassion to be really knowledgeable and sensitive leaders of the future. And they are unique. Your children are unique, you know that. And the things that they choose to do from here on in will make them even more and more individual. They have a lot more choice as they move into post-16, and it's our job and your job to help them realize their unique talents. So I'm going to start by speaking about the 2 IB accredited courses, first of all. As you'll see on the diagram on the left, one route through the post-16 is to take the IB diploma program. It's perhaps the one that people are more familiar with. And then on the right-hand side, we also have the IB career-related program, which is a younger program, but an equally valid way to get to university and something that a lot of our students have a huge amount of success with. So let's look at the diploma program first. Essentially, the broad description of the diploma is it is meant to be a holistic education that covers all disciplines of learning. So in its truest sense, in its purest form, an IB diploma student will take one subject from each of the 6 groups. So one science, one literature, one language, and so on. And then in the center of that, they will have to complete the core, which is the theory of knowledge, which is a kind of philosophical approach to learning and looking at ways of learning. They'll take an extended essay, which is a 4,000-word independent research project on any area of their choice that's related to one of their areas of study. And then they'll also complete CAS, which we know because our students do CAS all the way through the school. The difference here is CAS is a kind of requirement in order to get your diploma. So there's a certain amount of expectation on the CAS that they complete, and in particular on the reflections that they perform on the CAS that they're doing. We have a vast range of subject choices here. Over 40 different subject choices when you look at the higher and the standard level options as well. So in the IB diploma, every student has to do 3 subjects at higher level and 3 at standard level. If you're taking a subject at higher level, it probably means that you're doing extra units of study, so additional topics, and it probably means that your level of response on the exam papers needs to be a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more refined and a bit more in depth. So the higher level subjects should be the ones that you are most passionate about. They should be the ones that you are performing best in. And also they should really need to tie up with the kind of areas you're interested in at university. It doesn't matter if you don't really know what you want to do at university yet. This is more for people who have got a kind of very set pathway. I really think I want to do medicine, and I know that I've got the grades for medicine, and therefore I know that I'm going to have to do my higher levels in the sciences. It's just kind of making sure that those kind of 3 trains are thought about. But essentially, the main thing to know at this point is 3 higher levels and 3 standard level subjects. There is an option to do the first language. I mentioned the bilingual diploma. So there is an option if you have a genuine mother tongue, an academic language that you want to keep going. You can opt to not take a second language. So you can opt to not take a French or a Spanish, for example, and instead you can do another literature subject in your first language alongside English literature as well. If that applies to you, it's probably best to contact me directly at school, and I can put you in touch with Miss Koshi, who runs that side of the program for us. Every year we probably have 10 to 12 students that would take up that option. Some subjects are only available at standard level. So when you're looking into the options more specifically, you just need to be aware that there's a couple of subjects that IB will only run at standard level. Okay, that's an IB requirement rather than our requirement. If it can run at higher level, then we will offer it at higher level as well. As a general rule, as a school, our policy is that students take 1 from every subject, including the arts. The reason for that is that we value the creative arts subjects, we value the thinking that brings, we value the different perspectives that it brings alongside the skill set. However, there are sometimes occasions where students need to take another subject, medicine, engineering, something like that, where they might need to double up in science, for example. And in that case, IB does allow you to treat Group 6 as an elective, and you can drop the art subject and pick up another subject. So again, there's a little bit more detail about that on the website, and you can kind of investigate a little bit more as you go through. So just to give you an example of students and their combinations, because sometimes it's a bit easier to see it that way. We've got students doing, the 3 students on the left, moving over from the left, Michelle, Namir and Matisse, they've all graduated already. And Cecily is currently in our year 13 cohort. So with Michelle, you can see that she's got that classic IB diploma mix with 1 subject from all of the groups, including art, and 3 standard levels and 3 higher levels. And Michelle has gone off to Lancaster University. Namir opted to do 2 humanities, actually, because he was looking at kind of international relations and knew that from the outset, and knew that those 2 subjects would help and support him. And so he's got those 2 in there. Matisse opted to do 2 sciences in his program. I think he was shifting around a little bit with what he was interested in. So he was just trying to cover all angles when he was selecting his options. And he's gone off to UBC to do engineering. And Cecily is one of our bilingual diploma students. So you'll notice she's got Chinese A, which is first language, and English A. And then she doesn't have a language of acquisition. She doesn't have Spanish or French on there. She's got the Chinese A in there instead, and then she's got her remaining subjects. So lots and lots of different combinations. When you've got over 40 subjects, you can literally have, I don't know how many, I need a mathematician to work that out for me, lots of combinations. So what does a typical timetable look like for an IB diploma student? Busy would be the summary. Each of the higher level subjects, so the 3 higher level subjects, the students will have 5 lessons per cycle. And for each standard level subject, they will have 4. There are 2 TOK lessons timetabled. And then, of course, we've got tutor period. We've got the PE lessons, which continue to run 2 of those a week as well. So students typically might have 4 or 5 study periods on their timetable maximum in a working cycle. So it's a busy, busy, busy program. Just one thing to mention, so I don't forget to say it. If your son or daughter is a talented sports person and is representing their country at national level, so it must be national representation, Hong Kong or another country, they are eligible to apply to do their IBDP or IBCP over 3 years. And that's because the IB recognises that athletes that are competing at that really high level will be training intensively. They'll be competing often and having to miss chunks of school. And because the IB is such an intensive program, it's difficult to manage all of that and the sporting commitments in 2 years. So if that does apply to you, again, come and speak to one of us early on if you're interested, and we can give you a little bit more information. We've had a couple of students use that over the last 5 or 6 years, and it just helps to spread the load a little bit. So I just want to share with you a short excerpt. We've got one of these for each pathway. And this is hearing from the students. You'll see it was made during COVID time, so there's a few masks on some of them. But the messaging is good, and hopefully you can hear what their perspective is. It's always good to know what students think.
I think it's a great opportunity, especially for when we go into university, because I know a lot of universities recognize the IBDP, and it's just a good way to help me get into the field that I'm interested in for the future.
So I personally took the IBDP option, and I believe that the course itself is structured really well, where the exam board gives students enough time to prepare for important exams and assessments, for example, with the internal assessment.
The best thing about studying my course, so I'm doing the IBDP, is having the ability to choose the subjects that you like and looking forward to every lesson, but also keeping your options open, because I feel like that's really important for when you get into university and you start doing a program that you may not be too interested in. You can go and switch to something else because you have that range of skills that you gain from IBDP, and it's very well recognized by lots of universities around the world.
So I chose the IBDP program as it allowed me to study the subjects that I'm really interested in at higher level, whilst also allowing me to develop my skills in subjects that I'm not as familiar with at standard level as well.
So I chose the diploma because I got to do 3 higher level subjects that I know I will be completely engaged in and that I'm really interested in. So for global politics and business, I feel like I have a really good set of skills to develop for when I get to university. And because you still do those other standard level subjects, so environmental science or a math, you have that diversification in the range of skills that you're exposed to and what you could possibly use in the future.
Honestly, I didn't really have a choice, like with my parents, but it is like a really great way, because it is more focused than GCSE. You only take 6 subjects, so I think if you take what you're interested in, you're gonna enjoy it, and yeah.
The biggest advice I could give to someone who's about to take the IBDP and select their pathway is to try and narrow down their interests in subjects to 2 to 3 subjects. I know that at this period of time it may be very difficult for them as they may be unsure of what they want to do in the future, but I feel like the first step in this process is try and narrow down your interests, and then to go to the West Island Post-16 websites and see the types of courses that are on offer, and compare your interests to the courses that the school offers and see which one works the best for you.
Even though you have less subjects than GCSE, like the difficulty level is a lot harder. So definitely stay on top of your work. And I know for some classes, engagement is part of your percentage for your final grade. So, I mean, make sure you understand everything in class, do your homework, just the basic things.
My best advice would be choose the subjects that you're most interested in and that you know you'll enjoy, rather than what you think is best for you. Because when you do get to start studying IB, in the lesson it'll really make a difference in the way you engage and the way in which, or your approach to learning that subject would be.
Okay, so some great advice from the students there. You heard about breadth of study across 6 subjects, depth in the higher levels, choosing things that you're passionate about. So if you are a student who, you know, has lots of varied interests and enjoys that kind of rigorous intensive study, then the IBDP may well be the right pathway for you. You also need to like doing exams, because the majority of those subjects, apart from the Group 6 art subjects, all have examinations with them, and it's a very intensive examination period with IB. So that is a consideration when you're thinking about the ways of learning. Are you someone that's going to perform at your best in an exam situation? Or maybe if you prefer more of the coursework method, then maybe one of the other pathways that we'll talk about in a minute is more suited to your styles of learning. So let me just try and move this on without starting the video again. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask Tim to jump on and switch his camera on.
Hi.
Hello. So Tim is our IBCP coordinator, and he's going to take you through the IB career-related program first of all. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see some familiar names in the chat for our Year 11s. So the IBCP program, it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of things. As we know, this course, it was kind of rebranded in 2014. It had actually come around sometime before that, but the kind of modern version of it, as we know now, is kind of heading into its 10th year. And obviously that's meant that as each year progresses, the recognition of this pathway has become more widely accepted kind of globally. When I was first teaching this course, we had universities who were saying to us like, well, we're not too sure what this is. Can you explain it to us? And now that conversation is a much more kind of a hassle-free conversation just because of the recognition that it has. And I think that that's something that's important to note from the starting point because it is slightly newer. It doesn't mean that there's any disadvantage between the two programs. It's, as we've been saying, it's about what's right for the learner. So the differences between the two courses, you actually undertake, it's called a career-related program because the foundation of it is that the student should take a subject which they're potentially interested in undertaking, you know, maybe at the next step at university, going straight into the world of work or a future career. It's by no means cut and dry. Students have taken BTEC subjects in one area and have gone on to study something completely different or have studied it and then have ended up working in an entirely different sector because it's a very broad qualification in terms of the skill sets which are provided. The foundation of it is the BTEC course, which I'll talk a little bit more about BTEC recognition later on. It's always a fairly common question. We offer BTECs in digital design, business. We've got multimedia production, which is coming in new for next year, sports, engineering, performing arts, and we also work with some external companies who offer some courses for the students. That course takes up the bulk of the students' learning. I'll go on to talk about a typical kind of week in the life of a student on one of the slides coming up, but that's the kind of the main subject area. For those of you whom are familiar with the UK A-level system, the BTEC they do is the same as 2 A-levels. And for some people, that's a much easier way of kind of equating it. So you spend your time here on the BTEC course. It's all internal assessments. There is examination elements to this in terms of briefs which are provided by the examination board, and these change year on year. So the students do a combination of pure coursework in the traditional sense, as well as certain windows in the year where they will be working on an assessment in a controlled environment in the school over a period of days. It often sort of can be like 5 to 10 hours, depending on the assignment. This is combined with a choice of IB subjects. And for me, as the coordinator for this role and someone who's been alongside the IBCP as it's developed, I think this is such a fantastic and kind of unique feature of the course because students have already picked their specialism for their BTEC. They then have the choice to choose a number of IB subjects. Typically, we'd always say 2 subjects, and it could be 3 subjects as well. And this means that the students can choose from any discipline, so they can have a really broad spectrum in terms of what they study. This has advantages for students who are very career focused from a young age and know that they want to work. For example, we've had students who are very keen in the performing arts and they can specialize from the off in taking a BTEC in performing arts, combining that with IB theatre. We have students this year who are doing digital design and they're combining that with IB art because they know that they want to go to university to study a digital-based degree. We also, much like on the regular IB diploma program, there's a core of study. And this is the kind of IBCP equivalence of your EEs. That takes the form of a reflective project, which is an extended writing assignment. There's service learning, which again, is very similar to the CAS model in terms of the students undertake service learning, getting out into the community, helping out those in need, etc., that kind of thing, raising awareness via different projects, and also personal and professional skills where students work on a whole range of things from their general life skills, CV writing, planning, and also working on their communication skills, collaboration skills. And the final piece of that is the language development course. This is an unassessed course, but the students work through developing a language skill, which is supervised by the team within the school, and they produce a portfolio of evidence. So this is a really nice way for the students to keep up that kind of language development. And we've had students undertake all kinds of courses. You know, you might have a student sat there who's got a burning desire to learn Japanese, to learn Finnish, to learn any language you can think of, and we're pretty much able to support that process through the language development course, and it's the sort of the way that it's studied. So it's a nice, exciting little bonus there, which the students really get a lot out of. And I think what you can probably see already is that the students here who leave with the IBCP qualification, they have quite a broad skill set, because they've had the BTEC course, which is the coursework and the skill set required to be successful on that. I know a number of you have students who are studying our level 2 courses in media, digital design and engineering. So you'll be familiar with that unit by unit approach. And then you've got the caveat of IB subjects on top of it. So we find that the students leave with a really well-rounded qualification and a really strong portfolio in terms of their next steps. And some examples of students we said, I sort of touched on Freya's course options there, where she undertook the performing arts, and theatre was one of her high level subjects, as well as English. She also did ESS, which is another, so 3 IB subjects there, 2 at higher level, 1 at standard level. BTEC in performing arts, she did exceptionally well, and she's now at the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. So she's doing really well, and it really benefited her. Tom was in our engineering department, and he did his BTEC in engineering, and he combines that with high level maths, high level physics, and also high level design and technology. And he's currently studying mechanical engineering in Loughborough in the UK. And Jade, who's now over in New Zealand, where she undertook a BTEC in business studies, which is a very popular option, and combines that with Chinese, English, literature and language, as well as sports science high level. So 3 very different student profiles in terms of their subjects, all of whom have gone on to really exciting next steps in their kind of education journey, and as a result of this course. And I think that's something which is really good to be aware of. And I mentioned earlier about the day. The BTEC will take a bulk of the students' time on a typical day-to-day. So on our 7-day cycle, the students would be sat in 10 of their BTEC lessons. The standard IB diploma loading would come in for standard level and high levels. So students, may have 14 hours, 10 hours there of IB study. And then personal and professional skills and language development skills takes up 3 lessons of their time. So they do have in that program, there's scope for some study time. This year, we've developed some additional support methods for students just by having some supervised study sessions, just to make that first steps into year 12 a bit more of a kind of seamless transition from year 11, and making sure that they're getting the guidance and support they may need as soon as possible.
Well, I've chosen the IBCP, the career-related program. I think the best thing about the course is its flexibility. It allows me to choose between different subject groups and a career-related study, like BTEC. And I think that broadened my awareness and my knowledge as to learn more about career-related skills, such as photo editing, in personal professional skills, and learning a new language in language acquisition class. Both of these classes are exclusive to the career-related program. Yeah.
I'm doing IBCP, so I'm doing IB ESS, environmental, and English language, and I really like it because I get to focus on 2 IB subjects, which I want to focus on in the future, and I also get to do BTEC Performing Arts, which is the pathway and the thing I want to study when I am in university and take it as a career. And I really like it because the English can help me with theatre, and then I have a passion for the environment, so I get to study deeper into what the environment's about. Yeah. I chose it because I wanted to focus more on the subjects I enjoyed, and I wanted to really just develop my thinking and develop my learning with those subjects, which I had way more of a passion of than like math or philosophy or something, yeah.
Well, as I said before, I think the most important reason is its flexibility. As I have a clear image of what I'll be studying in the future, I have knowledge that for some subjects that I don't like, I will not choose them in the future, such as chemistry or biology, and the IBCP really opens me up to that. Well, the most important advice I would give is to think hard and think clear about what you're going to do in the future. However, if you don't have that plan yet, well, just choose what you like and it'll go all well for you.
I think you should go to your teachers if you're confused about what you want to take. Also talk to your parents about what they think is the best option for you. Also take time to think for yourself of what you really want to study in the future and what different career pathways or jobs you want to take or pursue. And I feel that you should actually talk to your teachers who are familiar with the course or other students who have taken the course before.
Okay, so hopefully that gave you a bit of an insight in terms of some of the student feedback. You can see that they really do engage with the course, and a lot of satisfaction comes out of this. I thought it was worth mentioning as well, actually, that this year we do actually have our largest IBCP cohort to date, and we've had an increase in student uptake on that course of 78%. So we're really happy with the way that the course is progressing at West Island School and the outcomes of the students as well. So I think I was going to hand back to Helen very briefly, and then you'll hear from me again.
Thank you, Tim. So we are just going to have a very brief break and do a little bit of reflection. We're going to run a little poll for you, which VJ, who is our master whiz of IT in the background, is going to launch in a second. And there's just 3 very short questions that I would like you to answer. The poll should appear on your screen. If you're on a tablet or a laptop, a mobile phone, it might be a bit more tricky to see, but it should be there somewhere. And all you need to do is just click in to the response. So question 1, I understand how the IB diploma is structured in terms of number and combination of subjects. Yes, no, or you're still a little unclear. Oh, there's a bit of an error on that one. It's got the wrong question on it, Veej. I think that's the wrong. That didn't quite work. Sorry. This is the first time we've tried it. We'll try again in a minute. We'll try and work it out. This is what happens when you try and be innovative and take a risk. So Tim, do you want to just jump back on and just talk about the video?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was that IB learner profile of being a risk taker. There we go. It doesn't always work out. In terms of where BTEC is accepted, this is the kind of most commonly asked question, and it is the eternal question for students undertaking one of our pathways, which focuses on BTEC qualification. So being a UK-based qualification, it's accepted in around 95% or a little bit more of the universities within the UK, including those from the Russell Group, which you may be familiar with. So we had students going on to UCL and other top-rated universities in the United Kingdom. Pearson as an exam board is the biggest exam board in the UK with AQA, which is under the umbrella. And there's over 1 million students certificating on these courses per year. Now, obviously, we're not just focused on the UK, but what that should do is give you confidence in the robustness of these qualifications and also the kind of the credit that they have, if you will, and the recognition that they have as a result of coming from the largest group in the UK. So close to home, obviously HKU and HKUST will take students on engineering courses and not on the back of the BTECs. In terms of the United States, Canada, Australia, and places in Europe, it does tend to be a bit more focused on the students reaching out to universities, but we've had students who study in every corner of the globe off the back of this. So in the past few years, we've had students from the CP and our more dedicated BTEC pathway going on to study in America, across Europe, and Australia as well. I had an email from a former student a few months ago who was studying film in New York after doing an IBCP in business and doing high-level film as well, which I got quite jealous of, getting to study in New York, to be honest. And other students have just moved on to going into the Netherlands. A couple of students are there. So it does have wider recognition, and I think that that's something which we really want to stress in terms of that peace of mind. But honestly, the best advice I can give as well is that if there's any doubt about those potential destinations, reach out to the school, reach out to our fantastic careers team, and they'll be more than happy to work with the students and speak to yourselves as well about those potential next steps.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I think we're going to try and run the poll again in the spirit of live TV. There we go. So same thing, answer these questions this time. I understand how the IBDP is structured now. Yes, no, or still a little unclear. Do you understand about the IBCP, the one Tim has just been talking about, in terms of, again, the combination of the subjects? And do you feel a little bit more confident in discussing the merits of each of those pathways with your son or daughter now? So just 15 seconds or so to put your answers in, and then we can have a little look. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, VJ, can you close it for us and display? Okay, that's pretty good. Hopefully you can all see the results there. So the majority still understand the two programs now. There's a little bit maybe more clarity needed, and as we've said, if you do need that, you can reach out to us. And it's great that most of you now feel a bit more confident about discussing these pathways. That really is the point of this evening. We're not expecting you to remember everything, but just to come away with an overall feel for the differences between the different offerings at post-16. So let's just move on a little bit. So Tim is going to talk us through our other two main pathways. These are not IB accredited pathways. These are both BTEC pathways, and he will talk you through a little bit more detail now.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. So another pathway which we have the option for is our international diploma pathway. Now, this is a pathway which is focused more so on the BTEC course of study. Students will undertake 2 BTEC courses when they do this international diploma. So we call it a major and a minor, and that's essentially an easy way of saying a double and a single. So going back to how I mentioned it previously and putting that UK twist on it, just for making it a bit potentially easy to understand, the students will have the equivalent of 3 A-level qualifications from their course of study on the international diploma. So students can choose their specialism, much like they can on the IB career pathway. Again, the same subjects are available there, and they will also choose another subject. So they have a choice there, a full choice, and they will pick 2 of those. One which might be their main area of interest, and the second one could be a secondary area of interest. It could be something which they just think, you know what, that's an area of my skills that I want to develop. I didn't take that subject when I did my options for year 10, and I really wish I'd had the opportunity, and post-16 is the perfect time to explore that. We can then top this up with some additional IB subjects as well, which again, much like the sheer volume of choice that we have here at West Island School, you can take these subjects from any discipline. And we also encourage students to undertake what's an EPQ, which is an extended project qualification. That is, again, it's a recognised course of study. And it's an individual project which students can do, and it just helps them top up that kind of profile when it comes to their next steps. So it's a course which this year especially we've seen a huge increase in numbers. In terms of who it's best for, there's no right or wrong answer, because with all of these things, the correct answer is, what's right for that individual learner. But having the vast majority of your subject areas not having that final be-all and end-all written examination is something which we're seeing increasingly favourable from students as time progresses, and being able to work at a slightly different pace. Of course, when you have deadlines on coursework, there's still those intense moments when the deadline's approaching and students are finishing the assignments. But the way that the BTEC course of study works does mean that the students can maybe take that little bit more time and maybe feel under certainly a bit less pressure. Another nice note for the BTEC course of study is that when the students do complete their assignments, again, it's not this final destination, you hand in your work, there's your grade, done. The students actually have the opportunity to improve their work. It's very much a course of study which is around based on giving students the opportunity to really get to their full potential. So students will have the opportunity to improve work. And I would say that's probably a large contributing factor to the absolutely outstanding results that the BTEC teachers and departments get here alongside the learners year on year. And here's some of the students that we've had studying recently on our ID program. So we had Kaz there, who's currently at Sheffield Hallam, undertook business diploma, so that is a double in business and sports science, and topped that up with the EPQ. Has gone on studying Sheffield, a fantastic university. Ella, who's ended up at the same place, funnily enough, following the business diploma. Ella also did a course at the ICI Culinary Institute in Pockvillam. Some of you may have seen that building. It's an external provider we work with, and it's a qualification in hospitality, which students have access to, and combined that with ESS and Spanish as well as the EPQ. Rusha, who's in Leeds, studied performing arts and sports, and Ryan, another one who's at Loughborough, who studied the business diploma and engineering sub-diploma alongside the EPQ. So very different profiles, again, in terms of what the students' areas of studies were and what they've gone on to study now. So, everything from motorsport to education to marketing management and early childhood education. So very broad, really strong universities that the students are attending, really highly rated institutions, which will set them up for what they want to go on to next. And much like we see there on our career pathway, the 10 hours would be dedicated to the primary BTEC subjects, with further 5 hours for their single option BTEC, and the similar loading for the IB courses as well as the EPQ on around 2 lessons per cycle.
I think the best thing is that it's mostly, or like it's all coursework. So I know that I don't excel in exams, so the coursework aspect, I know that I will do better in.
My course, you get to focus more on specific things rather than a broad range of subjects, so you can focus more of your energy into the things you enjoy.
Well, the course that I took was sports science, so I enjoyed sport and learning about the science behind it. So yeah.
I chose the ID pathway because exams get really stressful for me, so with BTEC it's mostly coursework and I can work a little more at my own pace and not have to stress about a final exam.
I chose the ID pathway because I wanted to focus on subjects I wanted to do in the future, and I liked the fact that it was all coursework and no exams, which would really benefit me.
Because it would be less work for me, and it's more coursework based instead of exams, which I like. Doing the work on the spot instead of preparing for the exam, so yeah.
I would say that choose the pathway that you feel you will excel at and have the subjects that you want to do and would like to do in the future. And if you excel in with doing coursework, then maybe do an ID or IBCP program. And if you excel in exams or you feel that you want to do exams, then IB is the option for you.
Pick what you want to do. Don't let anyone navigate your choices for you. As long as what you do you're enjoying, that's all that matters.
Go for something easy. Don't try going IB or something that's going to make you want to regret it in the future. Choose something that you will enjoy in the future and that you'll have fun doing.
Thank you. So always interesting to hear the student experiences. Our final route, and has been an awful lot of information this evening, is our engineering pathway. So it's a very popular subject at level 2 with our year 10s and year 11 students. And if those of you that have visited the school have probably seen the engineering department, which we have, and it's fantastic resources that we have available to students. So this enabled us to actually have a dedicated engineering pathway. And I feel like we're the only school across the ESF that does that in terms of having a pure focus on this. So going back to what I was saying about the single BTEC, the double BTEC, this engineering course is a triple BTEC. So a vast majority of the students' time is spent down in the workshop with Dave Hockley and his team. Students would top this up with 2 IB subjects. Now, typically this would be maths and physics, seems to be the most popular combination. And this is because when looking at students' profiles who are going on to take engineering at university, it's a really favourable combination. And also just academically, it all balances out, as the BTEC courses involve some quite complex units, which are very similar to physics and mathematics. And so the combination works really well. The school's got fantastic industry links, which they've worked hard to form. And again, thanks to Dave and his team. And now we're out of COVID finally, and we're seeing those come to life again. And the planning is getting back in progress for taking students on visits that are no longer taking place on a screen, but can actually get out in person and interact with the industry. The students used to go over to the mainland and visit workshops there. And I know that the team have plans to do that again. Some of our students here who did the extended engineering program, maths and physics there, we can see Eamon and Natalie and Priyanshu. So they all did these combinations of maths and physics. So funny enough, these ones have all ended up in the UK this year. Last year, we had students moving on to Australia. I think we had a student in Boston as well. But mechanical engineering at the University of Bristol, design engineering at Bristol as well, and mechanical engineering at Nottingham Trent University. So it's worth, for this course, this is, I would say, of all the options that we have, this is the one where the students are undertaking this because they know that engineering is their future career. So whereas the IBCP and the IB program and the International Diploma program, there's more flexibility in terms of what you decide now for your subjects in year 12. That's not necessarily the destination, compared, whether it's post-16 study or beyond post-16 study or going straight into the world of work and on apprenticeship. The extended engineering course, this is for students who know that this is the line of work they want to go to. We have a group of students at the moment who sometimes may have family links working in engineering. It's a very popular field in Hong Kong, very successful here, and it's maybe coming to it that way. But you can see as a result of that 15 lessons per cycle is spent on this course, very in-depth course, with lots of different units, lots of components, and then they'd be topping that up with between sort of 10 or 9 hours on the IB subject. And they also have the option to do the EPQ as well. And who should take this pathway? And as I've said, this is really for those students who know that this is the course for them. I'm sure there'll be some students who are either watching here or listen to this presentation when we did them in school and know that this is the line of work for them and very excited about the opportunity. So we're looking at students who may have 5 IGCSEs, graded kind of A star to C or the equivalent. Ideally a B grade or above in maths and science because of those components they are demanding. And again, it's for the students that have the passion for that subject. I think if you have questions about the engineering pathway, then you can obviously reach out to the team here, but contact the teachers there directly because they have full knowledgeable resources in terms of information as well as student destinations, and they can really tell you students' success stories from the course because it has been a real success story for the school.
The main course I'm taking is Extended Diploma Engineering, and I quite like engineering and I'm looking to do it in the future, so it sets me up better for my future and gives me more of an insight as to what industry is like.
I think my course is very relatable to what I want to do in the future. I would like to study mechanical engineering or automotive engineering, which makes the West Island School, the Engineering Extended Diploma, very relatable because when I want to apply, I will have be able to say, oh yes, I've done engineering, maths and physics, which is mainly important to me, and I wouldn't have to have spent time on other subjects that maybe wouldn't be so relatable and useful for my academic achievement.
Spending all day in the workshop is really great, and it's better than just looking at a laptop screen for 7 hours a day.
I'm doing the extended engineering course, and I know that in the future I want to study engineering at university. And so by doing this course I can do subjects that I enjoy doing, which are physics, maths and engineering, and not have to worry about some of the other subjects which I don't enjoy so much.
I think engineering suits me really well. I'm very hands-on. I learn better by doing and applying all of my knowledge I've learnt on the course, on the paperwork, and I find applying it into making all of these really awesome projects is helping me so much.
Because it's something that I'm really interested in, and I love working with tools. I love anything that's like hands-on experience, like welding and angle grinding and working with lathes, and it's all kind of what I want to do in the future.
It allows me to get into the same universities that I want to get in with the IB diploma, but with the engineering course instead. So that allows me to do subjects that I enjoy.
Well, I've always liked maths and physics and engineering, and I've always been interested by cars and things that move, so in order for university it makes it a better choice.
It's always fascinated me, and I honestly think it's the best subject I do personally. I think focusing a lot of my course on engineering is the right decision, and I highly recommend it.
I chose it because I felt that I really had an interest in engineering. I also do karting, so I really do enjoy knowing how to put things together and understanding how things work. So I really wanted to become an engineer since I was very small. So I decided to take the engineering diploma because I knew that I wanted to do this in the future. So doing the engineering diploma and having that to send to universities would be much more competitive for me, and it'd be much more enjoyable than taking IBDP, because if I took IBDP, I would have to do subjects that I may not be so interested in.
Make sure you're motivated to work on it and you enjoy it, and you're happy to put the work in, because it's a lot of work.
It's good to keep your options open and to be broad in your selections, but also choose subjects which you know you'll enjoy studying for the next 2 years and would hope to study in university later on.
Check with universities. Definitely get in contact with universities you want to go to. See if they accept the course, and if so, what other subjects they want with the course, because that's a very important step.
I think you should really contact universities and see what they would accept first, because obviously you have to know what universities would want from you, because certain diplomas may not be so applicable to maybe some unis that you want to go to. So you have to make sure that, but most importantly, I think you really need to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, if you don't really enjoy the subject you're doing, you might not do so well because you have no motivation to do it.
So hopefully that was useful. And I think, again, common themes coming through from the students about choosing what you enjoy, really thinking about your options. And just kind of my final input would be just please do reach out to us with any questions. I will always endeavour to get the help and get the right answers that you need for the next steps going forward. So thank you for your time, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Tim. So we're almost at the end. Just a couple of things, and then to have a little bit about the HE process as well. Just before we get to there, we're just going to launch one final poll. So we've now told you about the international diploma, and we've told you about the extended engineering course. So hopefully now you can answer these 3 questions. How do you feel in terms of your understanding of the ID? How do you feel in terms of the extended engineering course? Do you understand how that's structured and what it's worked? And would you feel confident about discussing those programs with your child if they came home and said that they were interested in one of them? So I'll just give you a few seconds to answer. And then at the bottom, I can't see it, but if I scroll down, I said to you at the beginning that the learner profile is really important in this presentation. So what would you say is the most kind of used attribute that you're going to need and your child is going to need as you move through this process? So of those 10 learner profile attributes, which one do you think is going to apply most as you're working your way through what pathway to choose, what subjects to choose, what universities to go to? Which is the one that's going to be most relevant, do you feel? Okay, so BJ, can you just close that one off and share the results with us? So I think with the ID and the engineering, I think the engineering one much more straightforward to understand. The ID is a little bit more complicated, so I'm not surprised that there's a little bit of unclearness there. But again, hopefully we can clear that up for you if you've got some questions specific about that, or maybe in some future sessions. I'm particularly interested in our learner profile because that's one of our focuses this year for the school. And it's great to see that kind of open-mindedness is coming through, the ability to research, to find out more, to become knowledgeable, and also communicating as well. I think that is super important. We've said so many times, please talk to us if you need to. And in a moment when I bring in Michael, I'm sure that is something that he will stress as well. So just before I do that, I just wanted to share this slide with you to really exemplify this idea that all of our pathways lead to university. So what you can see here is these 3 students are all studying very similar degrees. So business-related courses somewhere in the world. So Kimberly's in USC, California, Kai's at the University of Leeds, Emily's at the University of Exeter. Each of them did a different pathway. Kimberly did the IBDP, Kai did the IBCP, and Emily did the International Diploma, but they have all ended up at university doing a very similar course. So when we say all of the courses will get you to university, please remember this kind of slide, because this really does prove that all of your students, all of your children rather, will get there no matter which way they choose to go. We will share out the slide deck at the end of the webinar, and we have a post-16 website which has got lots of information on everything you need to know. Please use it between now and the next webinar in November. Use your inquiry skills to find out more. And we are also laying on some taster lessons for students. There's a hyperlink here to sessions that are going to run at lunch times from the different departments, so students can go along and find out more, maybe about the subjects they don't know so much about because they're perhaps not on offer at pre-16. The website is mostly up to date. There have been a few kind of syllabus changes and things, so we're just still updating that. So if you can bear with us, it's live and it's active, but I will send out an email once I know it's fully up to date towards the end of September. So at this point, I'd like to invite Michael to pop onto the screen. Michael is our new head of HE and careers. And it's really just a chance for him to introduce himself to you and just talk a little bit about how the HE team will be supporting you and your children through this process. Michael, over to you.
Hi, thanks so much, Helen. It's really lovely to meet everyone. I just really wanted to talk about, I think, a couple big ideas, and one of them is, the phrase that you've been hearing in terms of pathways. One of our focuses is on finding the right pathways for each student at WIS, depending upon their interests, and really sort of honoring the aspirations and the abilities and the interests of all of our students. I think another thing that we're really focused on is having this process be one of sort of self-discovery. So we really want students to be, as Helen said, open-minded and really trying on a lot of different ideas about what might be the best fit for them and thinking about maybe some different possible university destinations. And through going through that process, really finding something that suits them best in terms of their needs and interests. In terms of our team, it's a relatively new team at the school, but everyone's bringing some really strong background, knowledge, and experience from a variety of different areas. And we work really tightly as a team. So you would be having your child assigned to Miss Ghosh, myself, or Miss Chung as a result of the dynasty that your child is in. But Miss Ghosh and Miss Chung and I all work together very, very closely. One of the things that you see at WIS is that typically we have students applying to universities in 10 to 12 different countries every year. So there's sort of an infinite amount of information. So we collaborate together really closely so that we can share knowledge with each other and do research together. I think I'll hand it back to you, Helen.
Thank you. So we will roll out various bits of information through the HE team, and there will be opportunity for you as parents to come in and meet with the team, either more formal sessions, or if you want to come in and meet them individually and discuss things, please use the contact details on the slide and ask for an appointment, and they will do their best to accommodate you. I'm just gonna move through to the last slide. So this is kind of where we're up to. This is our webinar on the 14th of September. I've mentioned that the taster lessons will now run through from the 15th to the 3rd of November. And then we will all meet again on the 7th of November to look at the option selection process and just go through a bit of the finer points and the finer details and refresh everybody's memory about the choices and what decisions can be made at this stage. And your son or daughter will put some options, initial indications of options onto the Wisdom platform by the 25th of November. So we need some early indications because we set our staffing and our timetables based on what the post-16 students are indicating that they're going to select. That doesn't mean that they're locked in. So there is opportunity to kind of change things a little bit later on. But what we really, really want is for the students to use this term to really research so that they're giving their best judgment in November and they're not just guessing and putting any old thing down, but they've actually really thought about the whole process. They've thought about their pathway and their subjects, and they have, made some really informed choices. We've got a few very specific questions about universities, so we will save those and reply to some parents individually if we didn't reply during the actual webinar itself. And I'd just like to invite everybody to turn their cameras back on. Thank you. So as Tim and I have been talking, I can see the questions coming in and then just disappearing. I can't read them as they're coming through, but I know that Joe and Sara and Michael were busy in the background answering questions. So thank you so much to everybody for that work this evening. Thank you all for listening. I know it kind of went on. We try and keep these things under an hour, but this is a really important one. It's worth just taking the time. So I do appreciate at the end of a busy day that you have given up your evening to kind of sit and listen. And we really look forward to working with your son or daughter through this next process. Jo is going to guide them through the early stages in tutor periods and with her tutor team over this term. So you can reach out to her as well with any questions that you've got. And all of our contact details will be on the information we send you as well. So huge thank you, everybody. Massive thank you to VJ. We could not run these things without you. And have a lovely evening, and we will see you all tomorrow.